Hello, everybody. I am here today with Shawn Campbell, and he is actually on Penikese Island. Penikese plays an important part of my story, Hope Beyond the Waves. And although much of it is based on the leper colony that was there in the early 20th century, I also do touch upon the Penikese Island School that was there, I believe, in the 70s to the early 2000s. And Shawn sent me an Instagram message saying that he was on the island in the 90s. And so I thought, we were messaging and I was watching some of his YouTube videos, and he has an Instagram page, and the handle is Penikese Kid, but I'm going to link to it where I post this video so that you can access that, because he has some great videos. He has these beautiful sunsets. If you want to know if you've read my book and you want to know what Penikese looks like, he is a great guy to go to. So
Appreciate that.
he has a really interesting story, and so we thought we would just talk a little bit and get to know Shawn a little bit better. So Shawn, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much for talking with me today. And I was just asking Shawn where he is on Penikese, and he said he's in the main building. So this, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong on anything, Shawn, but this is where the staff building would have been as far as the leper colony, and where the actual Penikese Island School was when you attended there. Is that correct?
Yes, so I believe the foundation that the house sits on now is the same foundation that the Parker's house sat on during when the leper colony was up and running.
Okay, awesome. So cool. I love that you're there. I wish I could just beam myself over there.
It's a special island.
Yeah, great. So Shawn has a great video on his YouTube channel that kind of outlines his journey on how he came to Penikese. But I thought we could just, briefly kind of touch on that, Shawn. You said, I rewatched the video this morning, and you kind of were saying you had a rough start and you were in and out of the foster care system. I think it was 5th or 6th grade. You said that you were told that you were not allowed to have contact with your blood relatives. And that's when you went into the foster care system, and you didn't have a great experience with that. Okay, I'm going to stop talking and let you share what you feel comfortable sharing as far as your journey, and kind of just bring us to that point where you did end up at Penikese, if you're good with that.
Yeah, sure. So, I was born to a mom who had issues, and at some point I was taken away and put into foster care, and I bounced in between foster care and going back to blood relatives. But like you mentioned in my video I posted, in about the 5th grade is when I got a new social worker, and I took away blood rights to see relatives. And I went to many different foster homes, many different lockup facilities as I turned into a teenager. Most were terrible, a few were good. In 1999, I had just come off of being on the run. I was 17 years old, and when I turned myself into social services, the judge, when I went to court, gave me the option of going to a lockup in Springfield in Western Mass until I turned 18, or I could come to an island off the coast of New Bedford and spend the rest of my time out here until I turned 18. So I chose the Penikese Island over Western Mass. So that's how I found my way out here.
Awesome. And what year was that? Do you remember?
I came out November 1st, 1999.
Okay.
I turned 18 June 23rd, 2000. And then I stayed on the island for a couple more weeks after my 18th birthday, as the island tried to help me transition to a program that's meant for kids who grew up in the system and aged out, and then a program to help people who aged out transition to normal life.
Okay. Wow. So watching your video, you did, what you shared was really authentic and also heartbreaking, that you had this start that I don't really see how anybody could, go forth and really, with a positive attitude. And yet at the end of your video, you said something about being on Penikese, and you said you had a choice to make. And do you want to share anything about that?
Yeah. So when I was on the run before I came to Penikese, I ran from a program in Danvers, and the last foster home I was in, which was one of the good ones that I was in Wareham. So I would be on the run. I'd go from Wareham, New Bedford, Fall River, Wareham. I'd go hang out with old friends in Wareham that I spent probably 3 or 4 years in a single foster home. So I gained some friends there. And my high school sweetheart, her name was Melissa, and I had gotten her pregnant when I was on the run. So by the time I made it to Penikese, I already had a child on the way. And so that first night was really laying down and contemplating, am I going to re-enter society and maybe just become a criminal and, live the street life and see how far I make it, or I can change and, try to be a responsible person, take care of my child, and try to do the best I could for what I was given. So the first night was tough. I remember laying in bed and contemplating the world and what I've been through and what the future could be. And by the time I fell asleep, I consciously made the decision to do the best I could in this program and try to accept all the help that the staff could give me to possibly get me ready to be a young parent and enter the world in which I knew because I'd been on the run and on the streets for so long, but I didn't know because, again, I was a child, and the real world is a lot different once you hit adulthood and you're kind of on your own.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, that was the first night.
Wow, that's awesome. Good for you for like making that choice.
Yeah.
Must have been scary, but yeah.
Yeah, it was scary, especially, I was about to be an adult and then start off having a child it's
Yeah.
a hell of a thing to think about. Some people, are going to do the right thing. Some people don't. And I wanted to do the right thing.
Awesome. I'll ask you a little bit about your child a little later, but before we get to that, do you want to tell us just a little bit about your experience at Penikese, maybe what an average day was? I visited the island once and I just can't imagine what a winter would be like there. And it seems like you did spend a winter fairly quickly there once you got on the island. Tell us anything that you remember that you think was interesting, how you got along with the other kids, the teachers, what their program was like. Yeah,
Yeah.
anything.
So when I first got out here, the house was already pretty much full. I think I was either the eighth or ninth kid out of the 9 kids that could be here. So usually a kid would graduate, a kid would come on when the space was open. And I remember being in the house for the first day after the house meeting, and we're all hanging out. And there was like two different separate groups of kids. There was mature kids who were kind of laid back, weren't making funny noises in the middle of the night, and having the staff yell at us, tell us to be quiet and whatnot. And then there were, the crazy kids who didn't really care about much of anything, and they were just troublemakers. I remember my first day here, some of the troublemaker kids, tried punking me for my new flashlight and all the new gear I came out with. So I had to put my foot down from the beginning and stop that. And it's something you learn as you go through foster homes and programs, and you go into new situations where, you got to get adjusted to the kids that are there. So a normal day here is you wake up, you come downstairs, you're gonna make sure you bring your lamp and your laundry down for the morning, make your bed, come down, enjoy a cup of coffee. After coffee, we'd all go outside for about 15 minutes of stretching and exercise, and then we'd either play an hour football game or basketball game, volleyball. We'd walk around the island, collect driftwood. After morning activities, we come back, we'd eat a ginormous breakfast. After breakfast, there were 9 kids. 4 kids would get to go to school in the morning. 4 kids would go to work. 1 kid would stay in the house all day and do house chores, which is trash, mop, sweep, taking care of the lamps, taking care of the pigs and the chickens, and just house chores. Um, Around lunchtime, we'd all take a break before lunch. We'd have an hour off. and then we would go and have lunch. After lunch, the kids that went to school in the morning would go to work, and vice versa. Kids that went to work would go to school, and the kid that was in the house was still in the house prepping for lunch, prepping for dinner. Um, After that, we'd come back to the house. We'd have about an hour's worth of group or counseling time. We'd eat dinner. After dinner, we'd wash up, have a snack. We'd have another hour of quiet time where we get to read books and just hang out, play board games. And then it was bedtime. You go up to your little cubby areas where we had, and you got to hang out for about an hour there. And then after that was lamp out, and then the day started all over again the next day.
Wow, wow. Um, so were there any certain experiences or people who impacted your time there, especially, or anything? When did you, I'm trying to think how long you were there. You probably said it, and
I think it was like 7 or 9 months.
oh,
Like.
okay. So you left like on your 18th birthday, you left the
I
island kind of.
turned 18 out here and spent another week or two after I graduated. On June 18th, my mother committed suicide,
Oh,
and I found out about it on the island. So I turned 18 a few days later, and I was in a mess
yeah.
at that time. So not only did they let me stay on the island to kind of pull me back together,
Yeah.
but it was also to help me transition into a residential program in Fall River that was run by the YMCA for kids who age out.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Oh my goodness. Wow.
and as it comes for staff members, I mean, there wasn't a staff member out here that didn't influence you. You know, I was in a bunch of lockups. I was in a place called Taunton Hollow, Brockton Y, that IFL place in Danvers that I talk about in the video on YouTube, and a few other places. And there, the staff are there for 8 hour shifts. You know,
Yeah.
they're babysitters. Some
Right.
have a chip on the shoulder, some don't, some are nice, some are mean. Out here, the staff were out here for the whole week. You know, so you woke up with them, you worked with them, you know, it was just they were here, so you built a great bond with them, and they built a bond with you. And almost every guy out here who was, you know, young, not old, was like a father figure.
Yeah.
You know, and then like the founding member Dave Mash and this other guy Thomas Quattromoni, those are like grandfather figures, and I mean they were just pouring life knowledge into the kids out here, and the ones that were willing to accept that knowledge did really well, and the ones that didn't want to accept the knowledge were some of those kids that just didn't care, and they're just out here as a punishment instead of, you know, taking the chance and opportunity to do better.
Right. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
And you obviously did. Um,
I did pretty good. Yeah, anybody that grows up in the system, you know, is already behind the 8 ball, and I don't know the percentage of it, but not I don't think too many turn out too well. At least a group of kids that I've known growing up through the foster care systems and that I've stayed in touch with, none of them have done really good.
okay. Yeah. So sad. Sad reality. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, but you know, there's way worse situations in the world, you know. So no matter the hardest times that we've ever gone through out here, there's people out there struggling a lot worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Tell me about your, I think it's your son. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your role on the island now.
Well, my son Dylan just turned 18 in September. He goes off to New England College in Henniker, New Hampshire, and at the end of
Awesome.
August, and it's
Awesome.
great. And my wife Stephanie, we've been together for 21 years. She's the mother of my son, and I have two other daughters with two other women.
Okay. Yeah.
So my first daughter was born when I was on the island. I was 17 when she was born. She was born in April of 2000. She's now a logistics officer in the Navy.
Oh, wow.
Um, had nothing to do with her upbringing. I wish I did. But by the time I graduated the island, the mom that I had gotten pregnant while I was on the island didn't think I was going to change. And I wasn't a great kid and foster kid. I was doing home invasions and just petty crime and stuff like that. So she made a decision to go with somebody else. Florida, raised my daughter, did an outstanding job. Still in contact with her, no hard feelings with them. My second daughter was some woman I met when I was out and about in the crazy transition of turning into an adult, and to her pregnant. And my daughter is now doing decent. She had a hard life, and I wasn't there for most of it, but I caught the tail end of it, and she's involved in my life now, and gave me two grandkids, and
So
she's doing good. And then
good.
what was the other question about?
Tell me about your role on the island now and how
Oh,
you came to be there. I know you mentioned taking care of the cemetery that the patients with leprosy, when they died on the island, they were buried
yep,
there.
yep.
And just tell me about your impression of it and what you do, all that.
Sure, sure. So when I graduated in 2000, I loved the island. The island loved me. I went on into the world, and I visited randomly throughout the time between 2000, 2011, when I had an opportunity. Come
Yeah.
out, speak to some of the kids that were still out here as a graduating student. When the school that I was a part of closed in 2011, I got the opportunity to come out with my family. So I brought my wife and my son, who was real young, and the wife was questionable if she wanted to sit on an island with no electricity or hot water or anything. And since 2011, I've been coming out consistently for sometimes just a week per year, sometimes 3 weeks per year. And I come out here and I do a lot of the mowing, and I do repair on a lot of the structures out here that need it. I did a lot of construction in my young adult life, so I have the handy skills to be able to do it. And I come out now whenever I can and greet people when they show up to the island, make sure they follow the rules because the island is a bird sanctuary. And again, mowing and taking great pride and care of the cemetery up there. Since I think most kids that came out here probably felt a connection when they heard the story of the leper colony, because they were sent here against their will, and you had to volunteer to come out here as a student, but you still felt like an outcast.
Right.
So I've always felt a deep connection with the history of the island, especially the leper colony. And just the year before, we created a brand new path on the west side of the island that brings you down by the Western Cottage that they call the Women's Cottage.
Oh,
And
neat.
then there's another path that goes all the way down by the old cottages, foundations, and the old hospital, and it brings you out to that laundry facility.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't realize that. So cool. Well, when I was
yeah,
watching your videos of the sunset was it over the laundry building?
over the laundry building.
Oh, I was
Yes,
like, give me goosebumps. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, so
yeah,
you had a hand in helping with a lot of that and
yep,
yeah,
yep.
awesome.
So
Oh,
with my experience out here as a student, and I've known the mass wildlife people since I was a kid out here, especially the main lady that runs, I believe her name's Carolyn, and she runs the program out here, and all the staff members of the Penikese Island School. So they all know that my dedication to the island, my experience of being a student out here, so I know what to do, what not to do, and so it gives me a leg up, and I'm more than happy to. I owe the island a debt of I owe them a debt for what they did from turning me what I was at 17 to what I became at 18. So that's why I love to come out here and do what I do.
oh, I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. I think we covered everything. Thank you so much for your time, Shawn, and just your vulnerability and willing to share your story. I find it very inspiring and hopeful. I love that you're out there taking care of
Well,
the island, and it's just awesome. So thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Yeah, and if you want to I'm gonna link to your YouTube page and your Instagram, but if you want to just share where anybody who's watching this video can find you, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, YouTube is the handle at Penikese Kid. Kid is with two D's, and Instagram is the same. And I set them up a few years ago just because I always go online, try to Google things about Penikese, and there's some photos, some videos, but not a lot. So I decided to just dedicate these two pages to Penikese so that anybody that might not be able to experience a sunset or anything like that can kind of look at it. Just the other day, I had a comment from a guy that worked out here as a island caretaker when there was no kids on the island, and he was thanking me for one of the videos that he watched because it just brought back all the great memories of being out here.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And you're right. There were, when I was doing my research, I was trying to find a lot of stuff. There wasn't a lot. So I was
It's tough.
really grateful to, yeah, to meet you. Yeah. And see all that. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, and
Thank
I'm
you.
pretty sure my wife and myself, I'm pretty sure we remember meeting you when you came out in 2011.
That's right. You said that.
Now, either you were leaving the island and we were coming out, or we were leaving the island and you were just coming out. But I remember distinctly coming across you.
So cool. What are the chances? What are the
Yeah.
chances? Oh my goodness. I wish we had gotten like a picture back then. And you said that you don't have pictures yet of you as a youth back on Penikese, but eventually you would post them, right? Yeah. So
Eventually, as soon as I get them on my storage unit, I got some classics from when I was a kid out here.
I'll
Yeah,
look forward to those definitely. Okay. Thank you so much, Shawn.
I appreciate it.